Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another scene set in Adverse of the Dark Crusade Season 2. This evening, we once again firmly place this scene within the walls of Timorin. The domain largely shut off, apart from its, shall we say, accepted, recognized residents. One of which is standing of the prince of this very evening. Perhaps they are both they're both at the tail end of their journey as they have entered the city walls and are being taken by a carriage back to the Prince's Haven for the evening. And that is where we shall begin our scene. As yes, in the aftermath of the rather savage demon attack that destroyed the place of business of a fellow clanmate.
Irene is probably sitting next to Ulric. She's not said much other than answering any questions that he may have asked. She's a little afraid that she did bad, so she is staying quiet and looking out of the window as usual. Kind of plucking on her now fairly destroyed dress. Feeling kind of sad about it, but yep. And from time to time she glances at her sire to see the expression on his face and try to read it, but yeah, they're quick glances, so she can't really tell much.
He's largely just been watching outside the window this entire time. It's almost as if he's not really looking outside. There's this sort of grim 1,000 yard stare, as if he's staring off into the distance, as if he's expecting or waiting for something, or as if he is prepared for something. He's ready to do something, as if he's ready to head out. It's almost as if he's about to leave in some ways. It's it's a combination of patience and this rather grim vigilance.
Yeah, Irene is. She doesn't really want to interrupt his train of thoughts, despite the fact that hey, there was no train yet. So yeah, like I said, does basically the same as he does, looking out of the window and yeah, glancing back from time to time. At some point she'll kind of carefully, again, not really wanting to interrupt and still afraid that she is gonna upset him in some way if she starts talking. She's just gonna kind of very slowly kind of place her hand on his.
His First his eyes move, and then his gaze kind of his gaze, his head as a whole turns to shift towards you. And then he'll slowly wrap an arm around your shoulder.
Are you all right?
Soon, much of the world beyond these walls will be a canvas of flame.
She frowns. What do you mean? Did you see something?
I am surprised that one perceptive as you is not noticed.
Well, there are many things beyond my sight.
The ripples left from all of these events, their people and its consequences, are building. And rather than simply clashing against each other, they are building into a wave. It shall not be
Plague.
long until this Princeton too is engulfed in this wave.
You're talking of the plague, the riots, this demon. Is it all connected?
Does it matter? At the end of the night, all who seek power, all who stand to maintain it, fear to lose it, all have to make their stand. It is not a choice, but it is a crucible you'll all be forced to walk. And we
You're
may not be
talking.
the same people we thought we were when we walk out of it, if we do it all.
You're talking of the darkness.
You are narrowing your view.
Perhaps.
Darkness is just one aspect of what we must face, and it is simply a tool. It is merely one other set of vessels making their play for an abstract throne that is not. There are others, and there will be more.
Aren't there always?
It is the nature of those who destroy their own humanity to seek power that they will inevitably consume themselves. It is an endless cycle. It does not end.
There will also always be those to stand against them.
But then you would simply be part of the cycle, and all of this would be for naught.
I
Taking
am
a
afraid.
stand does not mean standing against a cycle. It is an integral part of it. Only those who maintain their humanity and rise above can ever hope to even dream of escaping this cycle.
How do you rise above that which seeks to destroy you?
everything around us, every experience we may undergo, every sensation, every fight, every conflict, every emotion, they are tools upon which we use to test ourselves, upon which to forge our future selves. It is one of the integral tenets of humanitas, and it is what divides humanitas from all other roads.
I am not sure that I understand completely. The demon we just saw. Did you not fight against it? Does that not make you part of, as you call it, the cycle? But if we would not fight it, if we would just let it do as it pleases.
That demon is just another tool being used in a jihad. One that no doubt is being poorly controlled and will loose unchecked suffering if it is not stopped. It might end the cycle if it is allowed to grow more powerful, but there is no victory in such a thing.
Grow more powerful. But we destroyed it. I mean, you destroyed it.
That is but crude matter.
Ah,
A
of
soul
course.
can never be undone, unmade, so simply or easily. When you strip away our armor, our skins, our hearts, the blood that empowers us so, we are all simply souls and echoes running throughout the world. Leaving our own marks wherever we may be. It is how we choose to use our forms that matters, not that we have them. This body is simply an anvil. Something that we may use to strengthen ourselves in the nights to come. But retaining its possession is not an end in unto itself.
But is it also not an armor?
To some, yes.
Can we do something without our body? Without our physical representation to the world?
A war. A war is not waged with soldiers or warships or siege engines. The true war exists in the hearts of all living things, against ourselves, our natures, and those who would chain them to their own services. A culture's teachings, and more importantly, the nature of its people, only acquire true definition in conflict. Something that cannot be suppressed through simple martial conquest. It is both a blessing and a curse that Lord Sombra possess one of the powers that can mold a soul as such. Perhaps the truest expression of power one can come to possess, and its most sinister. For it robs the people of opportunity to test themselves and improve themselves. By robbing them of their own battles, we cheapen their own accomplishments. Yet, contrary to what many would believe, we do not make it our own. It is not stolen effort, it is simply wasted. That demon, what you faced back there, is simply the most insignificant fragment of a far greater picture. One that few, if any, can truly see.
But you do.
To say I would be to willfully blind myself.
But you see more than most.
I am aware that I'm ignorant. Nothing more.
Aren't we all in God's eye? But doesn't that also make us precious at the same time?
What God's opinion on us is largely irrelevant when he does not act upon the world or its state of being.
How do you know he doesn't? As you said, cannot see all that moves. Maybe his hand moves in ways that we have no way of knowing.
Then his most hated enemies would not run rampant upon this world, drawing it ever closer into ruin, as the ones he cursed so desperately try to halt the enroaching chaos at every turn. Perhaps it is a stratagem to simply pit two outcasts among each other, but it does not lead to their mutual destruction. Rather, it only leads to mutual suffering to all. I actually find it quite fascinating. While we may be talking on a much greater scale, let us shrink it and talk about a much more insignificant act of cruelty. Such things can ripple and simply spread. For example, a beggar or a leper on the local road begs for charity. He is not given as such because he is diseased and weak and wounded. To many, he is considered trash, a waste of space. But to indulge in such petty cruelty towards such a person by denying them only perpetuates it further. It is in the nature of those who suffer to spread more suffering, and when acts of kindness are given, they are rejected and replaced with yet more suffering.
Odessa needs a lot of kindness then now.
Odessa is simply a part of an ancient cycle that has lasted long since before we have been.
Undoubtedly, but if we want to break this cycle, we have to start somewhere. You can try and start to find the beginning, try and find the end, but that sounds like a fruitless effort. Instead, as you say, one act of kindness can change a person if they allow themselves to be changed by it.
The only way to escape such a cycle is to look beyond the temporal and to seek the higher truths beyond it. Unfortunately, one of humanity's greatest failings is that they often seek these higher truths and then connect it to their own ignorance and lack of understanding. They categorize it black and white, light and dark, heaven and hell. They simplify something that cannot be segmented. Because to understand something so complex and convoluted would be too difficult. And we are no different. It is sad in many ways. We can look at the luminaries for a perfect example, and for faithful. Two kinds of creatures that are, in many ways, the complete inverse of each other, but share two fundamental failings. The luminaries, having been having sacrificed their own humanity to obtain power for its own sake, which will inevitably lead to its own consumption. For all of them seek power for its own sake, and only a few can hold that power. And they have been rooted in the temporal since their founding, forsaking any higher truth as a result, and as such, forsaking themselves. The irony being that power is not strength.
You sound very bitter. Are you?
All roads stem from humanitas. Many who have created their own in ancient times, I believe to have done so either because they were desperate and afraid, or because they were cowards and lazy. because it is merely a segmentation of the greater whole. All of these roads pigeonhole reality into their own pockets, but in doing so, they forsake their understanding of the rest of it. And while they believe, perhaps, they may benefit themselves, they not only cheapen themselves, but ruin the lives of those around them. It is nothing short of tragic. And I say this not to espouse my own hatred, but to steel myself. For I know that in the coming nights, my own ideals will be tested. And I must be ready to stand by them in the face of odds that will most likely, at times, be overwhelming. A war is won on the back of many battles and many losses and many hearts who are both for and against. And it is often in the nature of the jihad to turn those hearts who are against to one's own services, even as they rally against what they perceive to be a greater evil, against that which they are in fact serving. And what we have faced tonight is merely the start.
Whatever's gonna happen, know that I will be at your side. I may not be the bravest, I may not be the strongest, nor the wisest. I may not be many things. I am just me. But I will always be right next to you. That is, of course, if you wish me to be there.
It is your awareness and your tolerance that gives you context and credit. But strength and power are some things that are acquired slowly, similar to trust. While I would wish you at my side, I know that if I were to take you into my conflicts, it would not only be binding you to lessons that may not serve you, it would be most likely throwing your own life away. You will have your own battles to fight, and I will have mine. But as you say, in what insignificant ways we can, we will help each other.
If that is your wish. So be it.
It is not necessarily my wish. I can see far ahead enough of myself to a point. I wish for you to walk down that road with me. but I know at times you will have to leave my side until you can return.
Does that mean you'll send me away?
It means you'll most likely be fighting your own battle and your own conflict. Something that, as I'm sure you're aware, does not require an additional party. He kind of gives a smile.
I have
Do you
not
have
yet.
what you have over me is that I do not have the faith in people or the world that you have. I hope it serves you well.
You have seen many years where I have seen only few. I know I am mostly naive, but I like to believe that there is something inside of everyone, no matter how deep it's hidden. Something good.
What many would call humane naivete often contains more understanding than many would like to admit.
I dislike conflict. Even this ongoing situation between the Venture Gerard and our clan is something that, although I know I am part of it and I am doing my bit, is something that I do not yet understand. I do not understand why we all must be so hungry. We do not wish to see what we can do together. We only can see our own greatness. But, well, as said, I am perhaps, well, no, not perhaps, I am only a fledgling, and I know I see the world with eyes that, well, are not the sharpest in that regard. And I know that often because of this, I have failed my previous sire. I have failed you, and I have failed the clan.
Failure is a necessary part of success. Those who expect total and complete perfection I would consider very naive. Smiles.
Perhaps. So what now?
We ready ourselves, no doubt. That with the instability of the domains within the region, and Edessa reaching a crisis point, we will
Are you
inevitably be entering a large-scale, long-term conflict.
are you afraid this conflict will stretch to Timuran?
I have no doubt that it will affect the vast majority of the world. Our state perpetuates a cycle of self-destructive behavior. There are only two ways to correct that, either by detaching oneself from it fully or becoming its greatest enemy so that you can correct it.
Which path do you wish to take?
I have been walking the line for quite some time. I do not know whether I'll be forced to make a decision yet. But it is similar to the advancement or progression of most ideologies, in that in order to push them forward, one must understand their contrast to correct your own flaws, or your own ideology's flaws. One could make an argument that this conflict is necessary. But seeing as it would appear that in canine history we have been here before, I would be inclined to disagree.
They say that children learn to be afraid of the fire when they touch it. But, well, perhaps we need several times. We need several times to be burned before we truly learn. Oh, shit. Moment. There's food. And I'm back. Sorry.
Ulric just says, I apologize if I have been convoluted in my expression. Recent events have gotten me thinking. I am aware that I'm often far more blunt.
Well, many of your words, I will admit, I do not yet fully understand, as I presume they come from life's experience. That does not mean that they are not heard or that I will not overthink them. However, I will make my own decisions, and, well, you may disagree with them. You said we all need to grow in our own way, and from our own point, basically.
Just do not let it rob you of your humanity. I've seen what happens to those who do.
I am not planning on it. The creature we saw this night. I do not wish to become something even close to that. I do not wish to see those creatures bring harm. And if they hide in the souls of others, then I will fight them. But mostly in my way. I do not wear a shining armor, nor a black one.
A technique I may teach you sometime, if you show the aptitude.
I am not very capable of physical combat.
Well, I think you'll be happy to know there's a weightless defense. Something perhaps useful for someone who may find themselves at risk. The nature of thoughtful discussion. Lily poking fun at you.
We shall see.
And yeah, the carriage will begin coming to up the hill, and we'll stop off. Ulric will well, let Irene out, because ladies first.
Yep, she'll get out and will then kind of jokingly, since you never let a lady step out of a carriage first, because then they don't have a hand to reach.
This is true.
Or,
You do the opposite
so
thing.
she will hold out her hand for him to take and step out of the carriage.
You got me. Yeah, no, he'll do that. I think that we can probably end the scene.
Yes.
Thank you, watchers, watching. Thank you, players, for playing. We'll see you next time as I get that the wrong way around.